Good morning. There's a reason for joy. Do you believe that? Oh, wow, that was overwhelming, folks. About blew me away. Reason for joy. 8,000 people in here going, yeah, there's a reason for joy. There's a reason. Do you believe me or not? Yeah, I was in Denver, Colorado when we won our first Super Bowl. I'll never forget that. I was living in Denver. There's about 55, 60,000 people in the stands. This dude in tights dives across the chalk line carrying a dead pig. And thousands and thousands of people came to their feet because someone had crossed the chalk line with a dead pig. Hey, this is the end of the semester. It's almost over. You can breathe. Today is a great day. God is alive. There's a reason for joy, folks. I grew up believing that if it was fun, it was wrong. My whole idea of God was that he stood up in heaven somewhere and he would go, "Behold, Ken Davis haveth fun." No. I think people ought to be breaking down the doors to our churches and our homes if we call ourselves believers of Christ to find out what the celebration is all about. I take myself way too seriously. I sat back there and went, 8,000 kids. Wow, 8,000 kids. And my friend leaned over and said, they got to come here. They have to be here. I take myself too seriously. Before I get started any further, let me help you understand who I am and where I'm. I'm 65 years old. I've never been right. I never will be right. There's a screw loose. My favorite thing on a Saturday morning is to drive my motorcycle down to the highway near our home and sit on the edge of the highway with my wife's hairdryer and point that at cars as they go by. I love the smell of burning rubber. Don't you love the smell of burning rubber? I am telling you, if you sit on the edge of a highway with the hairdryer and point it at cars, people slam on the brakes. You can sit there as long as you want and sniff of the rubber. Sometimes I chase those people, which really confuses them because I drive a little pink moped. See, the definition of confusion, at least for a man, is to be chased by what he thinks is a policeman driving a moped. A man can't handle that. His brain cannot wrap itself around that information. What should I do? You think I should stop? You think what should I do? You women are so gifted, you have no problem with this kind of stuff. You just go, he's on a moped, stupid, step on it. Also, by way of introduction, I want to tell you that I can't stand stuff that doesn't make sense. I go crazy over stuff that doesn't make sense. I watch people arguing a point of view, arguing something that makes no sense at all. And I insist on the truth. I insist on honesty. I've been married for 43 years. Thank you, that's very nice. I said that in front of a group of 4,000 preachers the other day, and they stood in a standing ovation. I just let them clap. And then I said to 7 different women. That makes preachers stop clapping, by the way. That is a wrong answer. I've been married for 43 years to the same woman. And this guy comes up afterwards, and he goes, I've been married 43 years. And he was doing this. He said, my wife and I have never had an argument. I wanted to say, that's because she don't want to watch you do that. Then he said, we have never even raised our voices to one another. I can't keep my mouth shut. He said, we've never even had a bad thought toward one another. That was enough for me. I said, you're married to a carrot. You're not married to a human being. Maybe there's one thought I can leave you today that might be helpful to you. How many of you are unmarried students? May I see your hands, please? I can't with the spirit of celebration. Yeah. Yeah, that's going to end. Unmarried students, listen to me. You have been lied to. Good marriage is not the absence of conflict. Good marriage is two people who have committed to live with one another and love one another, who learn to work through conflict together. If it's confession time, I will confess to you, my wife and I have conflict. Ooh, can I keep speaking? We have arguments. We had an argument just when I was coming here. She woke me up an hour early, 5 a.m., to catch my flight. I said, I can sleep for another hour. She said, no, you can't. We need to clean the house. Now, watch the faces of these married people back here, because they know this is true. I said, why do we need to clean the house? She said, because the cleaning ladies are coming today. I love this woman. She makes me laugh harder than anybody on the face of the earth. She doesn't. What is your name? In the red. What is your name? Matt. Are you married, Matt? You ever wonder what it's going to be like? Every thought you've ever had is wrong. Did you say your name was? Brad, not Matt. Brad. All right. You like to sleep? Yeah, forget that. Sleep is over. Look at me. Look at me when I'm talking to you, Brad. Brad, you're going to remember this day for the rest of your life. Someday, you're going to be married. God is going to give you a wonderful woman, and you're going to be almost sound asleep. And you will hear this. That night's over, Brad. I'm here to tell you, Brad, that God made the sun to rule over the day, and God made these women to tell you what went wrong while the sun was supposed to be doing its job. And they do it at night. 43 years. My wife woke me up just the other day. I'm sound asleep. By the way, I don't tell jokes. I talk about reality. And I do see some of you sitting out there with your hands crossed like this. Uncross those hands. Put your feet on the floor. It's okay. It is okay. God is okay with this. When are you getting to the gospel? Joy is the essence of the gospel. Someone defined humor this way. Someone said humor is a gentle way to acknowledge human frailty. Some guy on the radio talked to me the other day, and he said, how does this humor and laughter fit with Christianity? And I said, how can't it? How can't it? If joy is a gentle way to acknowledge human frailty, the beginning of faith is coming to God and saying, hey, God, I've got it together now. I am everything I am supposed to be. Give me a break. The beginning of coming to Christ is saying, I am a sinner. Lord, I have failed. And then experiencing the wonderful grace of his love. And that's a foundation of joy. Now you got me preaching. I forgot where I was. See, look at Brad going, what's wrong with him? You go ahead, laugh, Brad. Just go ahead and laugh. How old are you? 21. Whoopee. Someday you're going to be 50. You're going to walk into a room, make a little circle like a dog looking for a place to lay down. Because you're trying to remember why you came into the stupid room, Brad. Just the other night, I am sound asleep. What, did I say something wrong? I am sound asleep. My wife wakes me up. This is what I hear. Listen! I heard a noise. Listen! Women, look at me. Don't do that. That scares us to death. You don't know it because it's dark, but our eyeballs are bugging out of our head. We're waiting for the axe to split our skull right in two. Waiting for the gun to go off. She said, it's in the garage. This is a true story. It's in the garage. What if he's escaped from somewhere? She said, what if he has a chainsaw? Then she shoved me out of bed and said, go see. This is one of those things that doesn't make sense. How effective can I be? Ejecting some guy with a chainsaw out of my garage when I'm wearing a pair of tighty whities. How effective can I be? Hey, hey. Hey, you with a chainsaw. Get out of here. Snap. One of the reasons we've been married 43 years is in those moments we end up laughing together. I have sat beside the road I remember a time in Florida, sat beside the road laughing till I couldn't even see straight. My wife had wanted me to share more. The night before, she woke me up. Are you asleep? Not now. I need to know more about your feelings. Another defining moment. Write it down, ladies. We don't have feelings. We have a remote. Now, I knew what she meant, and so I love her so much, I was going to give it a shot. We were in Jacksonville, Florida, headed to speak at Jacksonville. I was supposed to speak at First Baptist Church in Jacksonville, sitting at this huge intersection. And I looked across the street, and there was a place that I don't eat anymore. I lost 40 pounds over the last year and a half. I've started to take care of my body. It's a nice place. You may have a place like this in your community. Go ahead, but I can't eat there. I get in that place, I'm like an alcoholic. I cannot eat just one of what they sell. I eat everything they got. And I looked across there, and I thought, man, that's sad that I can't eat there anymore. And then it hit me. Whoa, sad is a feeling. So I shared it, but I shared it like a man shares his feelings. I just said it, and I said the name of the place with emotion. This is a true story. I said, Dunkin' Donut. And my wife, Diane, said, what? Now that ticked me off. Here I had just poured my heart out to this woman. And she's going, what? I said, Dunkin' Donuts. She said, what? I said, Dunkin' Donuts. And I will confess to you that within seconds, we're at each other like a couple of cats trapped in a garbage bag. And finally, I turned to her and I said, baby, what part of Dunkin' Donut don't you understand? And she whipped around on me and said, Ken, don't condone what? I said, I didn't say don't condone it. I said Dunkin' Donut. And there's a difference. Someone in the introduction talked about the fact that we take ourselves too seriously. It is so true. Folks, I don't care whether exams are staring in your face or whether you're looking at a tragedy that is impending. The truth is this, that unless our joy is based on the fact that God is taking care of it all, it ain't really joy. And if our joy is based on the fact that God is taking care of it all, then we are free to laugh. We are free to laugh. I go nuts over stuff. Think of this. I insist on honesty, can't stand if it doesn't make sense, and can't keep my mouth shut. You ought to see the trouble I'm in airports. I'm serious. I have been so close to being in jail, and it isn't because I'm some kind of rebel. It's just that I can't stand what doesn't make sense. I watched the other day, they had a 90-year-old woman in a wheelchair chosen for secondary screening. Now, every professor in this building can come up with a better plan than this for saving airplanes. When's the last time a 90-year-old woman in a wheelchair brought down an airplane? But I got my mouth shut. I ain't saying nothing because I've been in big trouble. They were going over me once, and the beeper went off on my arm. Beep, like that. And the man said, pull up your sleeve. Nasty attitude. I pull up my sleeve, and he said, what is that? I said, in Tennessee, we call that a watch. Now, I should have stopped there, but my lips were already moving. I said, this one's got a lifetime guarantee. When it quits, a little razor blade comes out and slits your wrist. You think I'm joking. That's the wrong answer, by the way. I now know what a full body search is. No one in here wants a full body search. When they first started doing this, I went nuts. The most threatening weapon on the face of the earth at that time was a pair of fingernail clippers. You could go to jail for having a pair of fingernail clippers. I remember when I got confronted, they said, put your luggage on the table. I put my luggage on the table. Guy said, you stand over there. I stood over there. I'd already been in trouble. I just keep my mouth shut. I had both hands over my mouth. Dude starts going through my luggage. My shoulders were heaving, though, because I was laughing. I'd been gone for 47 days. That was bad luggage. He's digging through all of that luggage. Came up with a pair of fingernail clippers. I never saw a guy get so excited in my entire life. What are these? Tell me, what are these? In Tennessee, we call those fingernail clippers. He said, what are you planning to do with them? He asked. I said, I thought maybe after the airplane took off, I could work my way through the fuselage with them. And that's the wrong answer. I saw the look on his face. I just found a little room and got naked by myself. I knew that they would send somebody in there. So here's this little old lady, and she is trembling. She cannot stand up by herself. She is trembling, shaking like a leaf, and they're going over her with the thing. You can hear people going, this is ridiculous. This is just ridiculous. And I'm trying to encourage people, do not say anything. They got halfway done doing that little old gal, and bless her heart, she said, I'm going to tell you something. If I miss my flight, I'm going to kill some people. She missed her flight. I want before I leave today, not only to bring you part of the gift that God has given me in allowing you to laugh at some of the weaknesses that we have, at some of the dumb stuff we do, but also to encourage you as I wish someone had encouraged me. My life at the age of 65 is being transformed. I am learning to live probably like I have never lived before. I read a passage in Philippians the other day that just blew me away. It's in Philippians chapter 3, and it says this. Paul is speaking. I want to know Christ and the power of his resurrection and the fellowship of sharing in his sufferings, becoming like him in his death, and so somehow to attain the resurrection from the dead. Then he says, not that I have already obtained this. How different that is from, my wife and I have never had an argument. We never have had a bad thought toward one another. You know what that says to a majority of people desperately seeking the Lord? Only perfect people can come to him. Paul says, I haven't got this yet. It isn't in my grasp yet. I have not yet been made perfect. But he said, I press on to take hold of that for which Christ Jesus took hold of me. And as I studied that and looked at it in its content, I had to ask myself the question, what is it that he presses forward to take hold of? What is it that he is looking for? To know the power of God's resurrection. This life is not a waiting room for eternal life. This power isn't just something we get when suddenly we find ourselves heaven-bound. This is something to enjoy now. I think one of the biggest tricks that Satan can do to us is to keep us preparing for something that he wants for us now. If in our mind it's just, I'm just preparing, I'm not ready yet, I'm not there yet. The fact of the matter is, for every student in here who has trusted Christ as a personal living Savior, he wants the power of his resurrection to be demonstrated in your life today. It took me 65 years to learn that. Part of it started with a physical thing. I had someone take a picture of me at the beach. I weighed 241 pounds. It was horrible. I was undisciplined. I was not living. I was just shuffling. I was holding the hand of a little girl who was my granddaughter. People on the beach are yelling, move, we want to see the ocean. Little kids coming out. I didn't dare lay down. I knew that little kids would come and go, Free Willy, and push me into the water. That picture made me realize, it was a look from the outside that made me realize that this is not what God intended for my life. And so I began to prepare. I signed up for a triathlon, not the Ironman. Any of you done the Ironman? Oh, you got to try that sometime. But be prayed up first. You want to make sure you know the Lord before you do the Ironman, because you can die. I didn't do the Ironman. I did more like a styrofoam person triathlon. You get up, run to the bathroom, fill the tub, pull the plug, fight the current, that kind of thing. Run down to the basement, pump up a bike tire, and go back to bed. It's a smaller triathlon, and I signed up for that, and I began to train for that triathlon. And the first time I ran, I couldn't run more than a mile. I was totally exhausted. Physically, I couldn't have lived the life that God wanted me to live. And as I began to mature physically, I began to realize not only had I become undisciplined in my physical life, but I had become undisciplined in my spiritual life. Somewhere along the way, I had put the thing into coast. St. Irenaeus said, "The glory of God is man fully alive." Benjamin Franklin said, "Many men, and for that matter women, die at 25 and aren't buried until they're 75. And I'm going to be honest with you. I've met high school students, college students, young adults, executives, powerful, wealthy people who are walking dead. Have not yet tasted of the life, the power of the resurrection that Paul was talking about. And I had kind of fallen into that group. How horrible to be a child of God and be living way far away from the edge. I was training for the triathlon. I was on a 21-mile bike ride. I'd gotten so that I could ride pretty fast. Biking is that's the best part of the triathlon for me. And I was coming up a 3-mile hill. The first time I tried that hill, I had to walk it. The second time I tried it, I had to walk it. Now I'm just cranking up that hill. And I heard a noise. I turned around, and here comes this old man on a bicycle. And this dude is gaining on me. I cannot handle this. I need to beat this person. So I start pumping on my bicycle. I tell you, my lungs are heaving, and I hear, and the man pulls up beside me, and he smiles. And for a moment, I'm thinking, kick his bike over. I can't let this happen. And he goes past me, and he disappears over this little hill and corner, and I'm just devastated. How can I call myself an athlete when I'm being beaten by this fossil? I came around the corner and saw him. He was slowing down, and he slowed down until he was right beside me, and he looked over with that same amazing smile. I wish I had met him. I wish I'd gotten his name. I'm wondering today if he isn't a believer. And he turned to me and he said, "Never stop doing this." He said, "I do this to live. Not to stay alive," he said. "I do this to live." He said, he asked for forgiveness for interrupting my ride, and then he said, "Today is the 7th anniversary of my stroke." He said, "I have regained almost all of my speech, but I still do not have full control of my left hand and my left leg. I just had to tell you." And then he took off. I was being beat by a disabled dinosaur. Then he did something that is like those moments that God puts into your life that you never forget. As he disappeared over the hill, he turned over his shoulder, turned back toward me, and yelled, "Live. Live." And see, that's my message to you today. I'm going to tell you that every day that you get up, the deceiver wants to bury your head in whatever struggle, whatever problem, whatever tests you're facing so deeply that you cannot see the power of Christ's resurrection available to you today. In little ways, in the ability to laugh, in the ability to enjoy. I woke up this morning. You know, I told this beautiful lady who gave me a tour of Dr. Falwell's old office. You know what the first thought in my mind was? Oh, I wish I was Dr. Falwell. I wish I was more like Billy Graham. There's 8,000 students waiting for me, and I'm just this second cousin in the attic kind of comedy guy. That's not living. That's not living. I tell a story about driving to church and how on the way to church, Satan tries to tear the joy from our life. If there's any parents in here, you know this. You found yourself on Sunday, God's Day, with your hands around the throat of a child you love very much. Am I right? And you're saying something like, you get ready for church, you get ready now so we can get there on time to learn about the love of Jesus. I was talking about how you grab the rearview mirror. The kids are in the back seat fighting over stuff that makes no sense. She's looking at me. That's how, there's no way to respond to that. She's looking at me. I remember I said, well, why don't you poke her eyes out then? That's the wrong answer, by the way. I looked back there, and the eyes were already out. They're rolling on the floor, and the other kid's going, they're still looking at me. I was talking about how you grab that rearview mirror and you swing at your kids, you know, like this. That becomes your aim. When the kids are back there going, strike two. I told that story once, and I remember these are the kind of people I love to be around. Little old guy came from the back of the auditorium, could barely move, reaching for stuff to grab a hold of. And he's coming up to the front, and he's got his finger going like this. Some of you are going to be pastors, and you're going to come into times when someone moves toward you with their finger going like this. The end result of that is never good. And sure enough, the guy came up to me and he said, I'm going to tell you something. When you were talking about swinging your arm at those little children, he said, God taught me a lesson about that a long time ago. I just braced myself. I said, what did God teach you? This old guy goes, God showed me that a touch on the brakes brings them right into play. So you will never know what a joy it is for me to come and know the kind of tension you've been under in the last couple of weeks and look down and see your smiling faces. You'll never know what a joy it is for me this morning to be reminded by God that when He created me with the ability to make people kind of relax and laugh and think of the truth from a different direction, that I get a chance to do that right here with you. But I want you to know something, folks. I'm going to keep what I'm doing until the day I die. I want to know the joy of God's resurrection and the power of His resurrection right till the end. Physically, mentally, socially, and spiritually. I want to live for Him until the day He takes me home. And I want to leave you with exactly that same challenge. What brings me joy is not a punchline. What brings me joy is the fact that I stand here knowing everything I know of myself and know that God, the creator of the universe, offers to me the power that allowed Him to be raised from the dead. Thank you for allowing me to be here. Live. Live.